The worst part about watching someone try to destroy your dreams is when that someone is your husband, and he thinks you don't notice. I certainly noticed. My name is Sylvia, and this is the story of how my husband's attempt to sabotage my career became his biggest mistake. Another late night at the office. Ruben's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval as I reviewed my presentation for the 100th time. Mom's right, you know, all this career stuff. It's not exactly conducive to starting a family. I kept my eyes fixed on my laptop screen, pretending to be absorbed in the slides. This promotion could change everything for us, Ruben. Vice President of Global Strategy isn't just a title, it's a chance to make real impact. Of course, babe, he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. Just don't get your hopes up too high. These corporate things, they usually go to people with more experience. People without wombs, he meant. I'd heard enough variations of this conversation at the weekly McCoy family dinners to know exactly what he wasn't saying. Speaking of which, the next evening found us seated around Evelyn's immaculate dining room table, where my mother-in-law held court like a queen passing judgment on her subjects. The pot roast was perfect, as always. The passive-aggressive jabs were even more well done. Palmer, sweetie, tell Sylvia about little Emma's first steps, Evelyn beamed at her daughter, my sister-in-law. Such precious moments you'll never get back. Isn't that right, Sylvia? Palmer, the family's golden child, launched into another story about her maternal bliss, while I pushed food around my plate. Oh, it was magical. I'm so grateful I can be there for every moment. I could never imagine putting my career before my family. Some women can juggle both, I said quietly, meeting Evelyn's steel-grey eyes. Eleanor Whitfield runs our entire company and raised 3 children. Eleanor Whitfield, Evelyn's lips pursed like she'd tasted something sour, is hardly what I'd call a role model for young women. When was the last time she cooked a proper meal for her family? Ruben chuckled. Mum's got a point, babe. Besides, this promotion you're going for, it would mean even longer hours, more travel. Is that really what you want? What I want, I said, setting down my fork, is to be supported by my family. The presentation is in 2 days, and instead of encouragement, all I'm getting is concern, Evelyn cut in smoothly. We're concerned about your happiness, dear. A big career is wonderful, but a happy home is a woman's true calling. Isn't that right, Ruben? My husband nodded, reaching for another helping of pot roast. You should manage your expectations, Sylvia. These things usually go to more traditional candidates. My phone buzzed. A welcome interruption. It was Mr. Scott, my direct manager. Presentation slot confirmed for Thursday at 10 a.m. Board's looking forward to it. You've got this. I smiled, despite the suffocating atmosphere around the table. That was work. My presentation time is confirmed. How nice! Evelyn's smile didn't reach her eyes. Palmer, didn't you give presentations too before you chose a more fulfilling path? Oh, yes, Palmer giggled, but nothing as important as Sylvia's trying for. I knew my limitations. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of thinly veiled criticism and pointed remarks about proper priorities. Later that night, as I made final adjustments to my slides, my phone lit up with a text from Evelyn. Just remember, dear, Ruben needs a wife, not a competitor. Some sacrifices are just part of marriage. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the delete button. The presentation on my screen represented months of work, research and preparation. It was more than just slides and data. It was my future, my chance to prove that a woman could have it all, despite what the McCoys of the world believed. Little did I know, as I saved my work that night, that someone closer to home than Evelyn was planning to make sure that future never materialized. But they were about to learn something important about me. I'm not just ambitious, I'm dangerous when crossed. I closed my laptop, double-checking that everything was backed up. Tomorrow would be my final run-through before the big day. As I got ready for bed, Reuben was unusually attentive, asking questions about the presentation, about the backup procedures, about where I stored everything. I should have noticed his sudden interest. I should have seen the calculated look behind his concerned eyes. But I was too focused on my goal, too determined to prove them all wrong. That was my first mistake. It wouldn't be my last, but it would definitely be Reuben's biggest mistake too. He just didn't know it yet. I'll never forget that evening. The way Reuben hovered around the kitchen while I made dinner, asking questions about my presentation with newfound interest. It should have set off alarm bells, but I was too preoccupied with tomorrow's rehearsal. "So, this new role," he said, leaning against the counter, "sounds pretty demanding. Lots of travel, right?" "Some," I stirred the pasta sauce, "but the opportunities are incredible. The global expansion project alone could—" Right, he cut in. "But what about us? What about starting a family?" I set down the wooden spoon. "Reuben, we've talked about this. Having a career doesn't mean—" I know, he raised his hands in surrender. "Just thinking out loud. Hey, want me to grab some wine? Might help you relax before your big day." After dinner, I headed to my home office for one final check of my presentation. The moment I opened my laptop, my heart stopped. The file wasn't in my recent documents. No problem, I thought, trying to stay calm. I checked my desktop. Nothing. Downloads folder. Nothing. Cloud storage. Nothing. "Reuben," I called out, my voice shakier than I wanted it to be. "Can you come here?" He appeared in the doorway almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "What's wrong, babe?" "My presentation. It's gone. Everything's gone." I clicked frantically through folders. "I don't understand. I just worked on it a few hours ago." "Oh, no!" He rushed to my side, peering at the screen. "Must be a computer glitch. Did you check the recycle bin?" Empty. "Maybe it's a sync issue," he suggested, his hand on my shoulder. "Try logging out and back in." Nothing worked. With each failed attempt, my stomach twisted tighter. This wasn't possible. I always backed up my work. "Let me try something," Reuben said, reaching for my laptop. His movements were precise, deliberate. Sometimes these things just need a fresh pair of eyes. I watched him click through various folders, making increasingly unhelpful suggestions. "Maybe it auto-saved somewhere else? Or could you have accidentally deleted it?" "No," I said firmly. "I wouldn't do that." "Well, these things happen," he sighed, straightening up. "Technology, right? Maybe it's a sign." "A sign? You know, that maybe Mom was right. Maybe this promotion isn't meant to be." That's when I saw it. As he turned away just for a split second, a smirk. Small, barely there, but unmistakable. The kind of expression someone makes when they think they've won. "I'll get you some water," he said, heading for the door. "You look pale." The moment he left, I checked my laptop's Wi-Fi connection history. There it was, a brief connection to Reuben's secondary phone, the one he claimed he only used for gaming. The connection had been active just minutes before I discovered the deletion. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. When Reuben returned with the water, I forced myself to look defeated. "Maybe you're right," I said, my voice trembling. Not with sadness, with rage. But he didn't need to know that. Maybe it is a sign. "Oh, babe," he wrapped his arms around me and I fought the urge to push him away. "Don't cry. These things happen for a reason. Tomorrow you can tell the board there was a technical issue. Ask for a reschedule." "No," I wiped my eyes. I'll go in and tell them I'm withdrawing my application." "That's probably for the best," he said softly, but I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "You know what? I'll come with you tomorrow, for support. You don't have to—" "I insist," he squeezed my shoulder. "What kind of husband would I be if I let you face this alone?" The kind who deliberately sabotages his wife's career, I thought, but I just nodded weakly. "Try to get some sleep," he said, kissing my forehead. "Everything will look better in the morning." After he left, I sat in the dark office staring at my laptop. The betrayal felt like ice in my veins. My husband, the person who was supposed to support me, to believe in me, had just tried to destroy everything I'd worked for. But he'd made 3 critical mistakes. First, he'd underestimated my technical knowledge. Second, he'd gotten cocky enough to let that smirk slip. And third, he'd actually believed I would give up. I opened my laptop again, this time with purpose. Ruben wanted to see me fail tomorrow. Fine. He could have front row seats to what happens when you back a capable woman into a corner. Game on, darling husband. Game on. Sleep wasn't happening. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ruben's smirk. At 5 a.m, I heard him stirring, getting ready for his morning run. I grabbed my phone and texted my manager. Not feeling well. Might need to work from home today. His response came quickly. Take care of yourself. Let me know about the presentation. I waited until I heard Ruben's running shoes hit the pavement outside before throwing off the covers. Time to get to work. I think I'm coming down with something, I told Ruben when he returned, making my voice raspy. Probably stress. Oh no, he said, poorly concealing his delight. Maybe you should stay home today. Rest up. Yeah, I sniffled. I can't face everyone like this anyway. The moment he left for work, I transformed our guest room into a command centre. Laptop open, external hard drive connected, and a determination that would have scared Ruben if he could see it. First step, deep forensic analysis. I wasn't just a marketing strategist. I'd spent years working with our tech teams, learning their tools, understanding their systems. Time to put that knowledge to use. 3 hours in, I found it. Fragment logs of a remote wipe command, initiated through a piece of freeware Ruben had mentioned months ago. Great for transferring large files, he'd said. Yeah, right, my phone buzzed. Evelyn, Ruben told me about your computer troubles, dear. Perhaps it's for the best. Now you can focus on more important things. I didn't respond. Let them think I was wallowing. Instead, I called Talia, my friend in data analytics. Hey, quick question. Working on a side project about data security. Any tips on embedding traceable markers in presentation slides? Ooh, interesting. She launched into a detailed explanation of metadata techniques. You can actually hide quite a bit of information in plain sight if you know what you're doing. Perfect. By late afternoon, my fingers were flying across the keyboard. This wasn't just about recreating my presentation anymore. This was about justice, served cold and digital. I created a new folder, Project Phoenix. The presentation took shape, better than before. Sharper, more focused. But now, woven through the slides about global market strategy and risk mitigation, I embedded something special. The logs, the access records, the digital fingerprints Ruben had left behind, all disguised as case studies in corporate security. My phone buzzed again. Ruben, how are you feeling, babe? Need anything? Just tired, I texted back. Can barely look at screens. Take it easy, I'll pick up dinner. I worked faster. Each slide was a weapon carefully crafted. To most viewers, they'd see impressive market analysis and growth projections. But to someone like Wesley, our CTO, the technical details hidden in my examples would tell a very different story. At 6 p.m, I heard Ruben's car pull up. I quickly closed everything, messed up my hair and grabbed a box of tissues just as he walked in. Still feeling awful? He asked, setting down take-out bags. I gave a weak cough. Yeah, I think I need to withdraw my application. Oh, honey, he sat beside me, patting my knee. I know it's disappointing, but maybe this is exactly what needed to happen. Mum always says things work out the way they're supposed to. You're probably right, I whispered, dying inside, at his patronising tone. I feel so stupid. Don't. He squeezed my hand. You tried, that's what matters. How about I come with you tomorrow anyway? We can explain the situation together. You'd do that? Of course, I want to support you through this. Support me through my public humiliation, he meant. The thought of him sitting there expecting to watch me fail made my blood boil. But I just squeezed his hand back. Thank you, I said softly. That would mean a lot. After dinner, I made a show of going to bed early, claiming a headache. Once Reuben was asleep, I slipped back to the guest room for final touches. Looking at my completed work, I felt a calm certainty settle over me. Tomorrow, Reuben would indeed witness something unforgettable, just not the disaster he was hoping for. I saved everything to a secure drive and finally went to bed, allowing myself a small smile in the darkness. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Mine would be served in a boardroom, with a side of career-ending consequences. Sleep came easily now, my dreams filled with tomorrow's possibilities, and Reuben's smirk, it wouldn't survive the morning. Morning brought another performance, this time as the nervous wreck. I fumbled with my coffee cup, dropped my toast butter side down, and generally acted like someone about to face their execution rather than their triumph. Maybe you should eat something more, Reuben suggested, watching me pick at my breakfast. You look pale. I can't. I pushed the plate away. My stomach's in knots. It'll be over soon, he said soothingly, checking his watch. We should leave in 30 minutes. The moment he went upstairs to change, I pulled out my phone and called Talia. Hey, quick question about those data embedding techniques you mentioned. I kept my voice low. How visible would they be during a standard presentation? Depends on how you structure them, she said. Want me to show you a few tricks? Please. But fast, I've got about 20 minutes. What followed was a crash course in digital sleight of hand. Talia walked me through layering data in ways that would be invisible during a casual viewing, but crystal clear under scrutiny. Perfect for hiding Easter eggs in presentations, she said cheerfully, having no idea she was helping me build a career-destroying trap. I heard Reuben's footsteps on the stairs and quickly ended the call. Thanks, you're a lifesaver. Ready? Reuben appeared, straightening his tie. We don't want to be late for your announcement. The drive to the office was quiet. I stared out the window, apparently lost in miserable thoughts. Actually, I was running through my presentation beats. The section on internal security threats would come right after the market analysis. Wesley would be sitting on the left side of the boardroom, perfect angle to see the technical details embedded in my slides. I'll be right there with you, Reuben said as we parked. Just remember, sometimes admitting defeat is braver than pushing forward. I wanted to laugh at the irony. Instead, I gave him a trembling smile. The office was buzzing with its usual morning energy. As we walked to my desk, I caught snippets of conversation about the upcoming presentation. My reputation for thoroughness meant expectations were high. Sylvia! Mr. Scott approached, concern evident on his face. Are you sure you're up for this? I glanced at Reuben, then back to my manager. I need to tell the board something important. She's not feeling her best, Reuben jumped in, his hand on my shoulder. Maybe we should consider postponing. Actually, I said quietly, I think I need to do this now. We had 30 minutes before the presentation. I made a show of trying to recover my deleted files, letting Reuben hover nearby with his fake sympathy. Each failed attempt seemed to make him stand taller. Maybe you should just tell them what happened, he suggested, about the computer glitch. No, I shook my head. I need to face this properly. Eleanor, our CEO, walked past my desk, nodding briefly. Looking forward to your presentation, Sylvia. Reuben squeezed my shoulder. It'll be over soon. Yes, it would. Just not the way he thought. 20 minutes before the presentation, I excused myself to the bathroom. Once alone, I pulled out my secure drive and uploaded the real presentation to the boardroom system. Everything was in place. When I returned, Talia caught me in the hallway. Hey, did those techniques help with your project? More than you know, I smiled. I might show you the results later. Back at my desk, Reuben was checking his phone. Your mother-in-law sends her love. Says she's thinking of you." "How thoughtful," I muttered, gathering my materials. "You know," he said, lowering his voice, "there's still time to call in sick. No one would blame you." I looked at him, really looked at him. My husband, who thought he was about to watch me crumble, who had deliberately tried to destroy my career because it threatened his ego. "No," I said firmly, "I need to do this." We walked to the boardroom together, his hand on my back like he was supporting me. Through the glass walls, I could see the board members taking their seats. Wesley was exactly where I'd predicted, angling his laptop screen for optimal viewing. "Break a leg, babe," Reuben whispered as we reached the door. "Or, don't." He winked. I gave him my best defeated look, but inside I was smiling. He wanted a show. He was about to get one. "Time to face the music," I said softly, pushing open the boardroom door. "Oh, Reuben, you have no idea what kind of music I've composed for you." The boardroom felt electric as I set up my laptop. Reuben settled into a chair near the back, his posture relaxed, expectant, like someone about to enjoy a show. Eleanor sat at the head of the table, Wesley to her left, exactly as planned. My phone buzzed. Evelyn, right on cue. "Remember, dear, there's no shame in knowing your limitations. We'll have tea later and talk about more suitable goals for you." I placed my phone face down just as Mr. Scott entered. "Sylvia, are you sure you don't want to reschedule?" "No," I straightened my blazer. "I need to do this now." "Technical difficulties can happen to anyone," Reuben called from the back, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Maybe just explain the situation?" Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "Is there a problem with the presentation?" "No problem," I said firmly, connecting my laptop to the projector. "Everything is exactly as it should be." The board members filtered in, taking their seats. I could feel Reuben's eyes boring into my back, waiting for the meltdown he'd orchestrated. The presentation remote felt cool in my palm as I took my position at the front of the room. "Good morning, everyone," I began, my voice steady. "Before I start, I'd like to thank my husband for being here today. He's been particularly invested in this presentation." Reuben smiled modestly, accepting what he thought was gratitude. If he noticed the edge in my voice, he didn't show it. "I understand you had some technical issues yesterday?" Wesley asked, his fingers already moving across his laptop keyboard. "Yes," I met his eyes meaningfully. "A rather targeted technical issue, actually, but as you'll see in today's presentation, sometimes setbacks can be illuminating." Reuben shifted in his seat. "Shall we begin?" Eleanor gestured to the screen. I clicked the remote. The title slide appeared. "Navigating Disruption, a Strategy for Global Dominance." Reuben's smug expression flickered slightly. This wasn't the empty screen he'd expected. "Our global expansion strategy needs to account for various types of threats," I continued smoothly, "both external and internal." The presentation flowed perfectly. Each slide was sharp, professional, devastating in its precision. I watched Wesley's expression change as he noticed the first embedded data log, disguised as a market analysis graph. His eyes narrowed, fingers flying across his keyboard. Halfway through, my phone buzzed again. Evelyn. "Reuben says you're still presenting. Don't push yourself too hard, dear." I ignored it, moving to the section titled Internal Security Protocols and Risk Mitigation. "This case study is particularly relevant," I said, clicking to the next slide. "It demonstrates how seemingly minor security breaches can reveal larger patterns of sabotage." Reuben's face had lost its colour. He recognised the timestamp in the corner of the log file, the exact moment he'd accessed my laptop. "Notice the signature of this particular breach," I continued, watching Wesley lean forward. "The perpetrator used a common file transfer program to mask their true intentions." The room had grown very quiet. Eleanor's gaze shifted between my confident delivery and Reuben's increasingly uncomfortable fidgeting. "Of course," I added, clicking to the next slide. "The best defense is thorough documentation and backup systems." Reuben's phone buzzed. Probably Evelyn again, but he didn't check it. His eyes were fixed on the screen, recognition and horror dawning as he realised what I'd done. "Questions so far?" I asked the room. Wesley raised his hand. "These security breach patterns, they're remarkably specific, almost as if they were recorded from a recent incident." "How observant," I smiled. "Yes, they're quite recent. In fact—" "Sylvia," Reuben interrupted, his voice strained, "maybe we should take a break." "Oh, but we're just getting to the most interesting part," I said sweetly. "About how certain individuals might attempt to sabotage corporate assets for personal gain." The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Wesley was typing furiously, no doubt analysing the embedded data. Eleanor's expression had turned razor sharp. "As I was saying," I continued, "the key to surviving attempted sabotage is not just prevention, but preparation. Always be ready for those closest to you to reveal their true colours." Reuben stood abruptly. "I just remembered an important meeting." "Please stay," Eleanor's voice cut through the room like steel. "I believe this presentation is becoming quite relevant to multiple parties." He sank back into his chair, defeat written across his face. I clicked to the next slide, ready to deliver the final blow. "Now, let's discuss the long-term consequences of betraying trust in a professional environment." The trap was sprung. All that remained was to watch it close. The boardroom had transformed into a battlefield, and I was commanding the high ground. Every slide was a calculated strike, every data point a bullet. Reuben, my would-be saboteur, sat frozen in his chair, watching his carefully laid plans explode in his face. "This next section," I gestured to the screen, "demonstrates how digital forensics can uncover patterns of deliberate interference." Wesley hadn't looked up from his laptop for the past 10 minutes. His fingers danced across the keyboard, no doubt verifying every hidden timestamp and access log I'd embedded in the presentation. "Fascinating approach," Eleanor leaned forward, "especially your analysis of internal threat vectors." "Thank you," I smiled. "I believe the best strategies account for unexpected betrayals." Reuben's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, then quickly switched it off. Probably Evelyn wondering why her perfect son wasn't answering her messages about my imminent professional suicide. "Your market expansion proposals are impressive," Mr. Scott interjected, "but I'm particularly intrigued by your security infrastructure recommendations." "As am I," Wesley finally looked up from his screen. "These logs show a remarkably sophisticated understanding of system vulnerabilities, almost as if you'd encountered them firsthand." "You could say that," I replied, clicking to the next slide. "Sometimes the best insights come from personal experience." Reuben shifted in his seat, his collar suddenly too tight. "Sylvia, maybe we should—" "Please," Eleanor held up a hand. "Let's allow your wife to finish her presentation. I find myself especially interested in her conclusions about dealing with, what did you call it, malicious internal actors." The next slide displayed a complex network diagram. To most viewers, it showed global communication channels. To Wesley's trained eye, it revealed the exact digital pathway Reuben had used to access my laptop. "Notice how the attack vector here," I pointed to a specific node, "matches common patterns of premeditated corporate sabotage." Wesley's eyebrows shot up. He typed something quickly, then turned his laptop so Eleanor could see the screen. Her expression hardened. "Very thorough analysis," she said carefully. "Almost as if you'd anticipated certain complications." "I believe in being prepared," I replied, holding Reuben's increasingly panicked gaze, "especially when dealing with those who might underestimate you." The presentation remote felt like a weapon in my hand. As I advanced to the final section, each click brought another piece of evidence into view, another nail in the coffin of Reuben's reputation. And here, I highlighted a particular data stream, we see how attempted sabotage often leaves unexpected digital fingerprints, Sylvia, Reuben stood suddenly, his voice cracking. I'm not feeling well. We should both... Sit down, Mr. McCoy. Eleanor's voice could have frozen hell. I believe your wife is about to make some crucial points about professional integrity. He collapsed back into his chair, the blood draining from his face as Wesley turned his laptop screen toward Eleanor again, showing her something that made her jaw tighten. To conclude, I said, advancing to my final slide, success in global markets requires vigilance, resilience, and the ability to turn attempted sabotage into opportunity. The room erupted in applause, all except Reuben, who looked like he might be sick, and Wesley, who was still analysing data with fierce concentration. Exceptional presentation, Eleanor stood. Both the market strategy and the supplementary security insights. We'll need to discuss both aspects in detail. Of course, I nodded. I'm particularly interested in your thoughts on the security breaches I documented. Reuben practically leaped from his chair. I really need to... Mr. McCoy, Wesley's voice cut through the room. I'd appreciate it if you'd stay a moment. There are some technical questions I'd like to ask you about certain network activities originating from your devices. The look of sheer panic on Reuben's face was almost worth everything he'd put me through. Almost. Sylvia, Eleanor gestured to the door. Would you join me in my office? I believe we have several matters to discuss, including your new position and some concerning security issues that have come to light. I gathered my materials calmly, watching Reuben sink deeper into his chair as Wesley approached him, laptop in hand. Oh, and Reuben, I paused at the door, don't forget to call your mother. She's probably wondering why her perfect son's plan didn't quite work out as expected. As I followed Eleanor out, I heard Wesley's stern voice. Now, Mr. McCoy, about these unauthorized access attempts. The trap hadn't just sprung, it had snapped shut with devastating precision, and I was just getting started. Eleanor's office felt like a war room as she closed the door behind us. Through the glass walls I could see Wesley still cornering Reuben, his laptop screen illuminating my husband's increasingly ashen face. First, Eleanor settled behind her desk. Congratulations on the promotion. Your strategy for global expansion is exactly what we need. Thank you, I said, remaining standing. I assume you have questions about the other matter. Oh, yes, she pressed a button on her phone. Join us, please. Moments later, Wesley entered, his laptop tucked under his arm. Mr. McCoy is currently speaking with IT security. They're quite interested in his choice of software. I've extracted the relevant logs, he continued, setting up his laptop. The attack signature is unmistakable. Remote access, targeted file deletion, attempts to cover tracks, all traced back to his secondary device. Eleanor's expression was glacial. And this device? Registered to his employer, Wesley replied, which raises additional concerns about corporate espionage. My phone buzzed. Evelyn again. Reuben's not answering. What's happening? Did you embarrass yourself as expected? I switched off my phone, let her stew. The board is prepared to offer you the vice president position immediately, Eleanor said. But we need to address this security breach first. Are you planning to press charges? That depends, I replied, watching Reuben through the glass as he gesticulated wildly to the IT security team, on how he handles the next few minutes. As if on cue, Reuben burst into the office, security personnel right behind him. This is all a misunderstanding. Sylvia, tell them... Tell them what? I turned to face him. That you didn't use illegal software to access my laptop. That you didn't deliberately delete my presentation. That your mother's text messages about knowing my place were just friendly advice. I was trying to protect you, he sputtered. This job, it would change everything. You mean it would change your comfortable little world where your wife knows her place? I stepped closer. Where I'm supposed to be grateful for your support while you actively sabotage my career? Mrs. McCoy, one of the security team interrupted. We've found additional concerning software on his work devices. His employer will need to be notified. Reuben's face crumpled. You can't... My job... Actually, Wesley interjected, as this constitutes a cyber attack using corporate resources, we're obligated to report it. Sylvia, please, Reuben's voice cracked. Think about what this will do to our family. Family? I laughed coldly. You mean the people who've spent years trying to clip my wings, who turned my ambition into something shameful? Eleanor stood. Mr. McCoy, I suggest you leave voluntarily before we have security escort you out. Our legal team will be in touch. This isn't over. He backed toward the door, desperation replacing his usual smugness. Mom will... Your mother, I cut in, can expect my divorce papers right after your employer receives the evidence of your corporate espionage. I'm sure she'll love explaining that at her next garden club meeting. The security team moved forward, but Reuben finally got the message. He fled, nearly running into Talia, who was waiting outside. Everything okay? She asked, entering with a concerned look. I saw Reuben leaving in a hurry. Better than okay? I smiled. Remember those data embedding techniques you showed me? They just helped expose a corporate saboteur. Her eyes widened as Wesley showed her the logs. Oh my God, he actually... And you caught him with poetic justice, Eleanor remarked dryly. Now, about your new position, I believe we need to discuss your first project, a complete overhaul of our digital security protocols. My phone had started buzzing again. Evelyn's number flashed repeatedly, but I kept it off. She could wait until the lawyers called. One question. Wesley looked up from his laptop. How did you know he'd try something like this? Because people like Reuben and his mother never believe women like me can be 2 steps ahead, I replied. They're so convinced of their superiority that they never see the trap until it's too late. Through the glass walls, I watched Reuben being escorted from the building, his perfect world crumbling around him. No corner office would welcome a man caught using corporate resources for cyber attacks. No country club would embrace someone who faced potential legal charges. Well, Eleanor handed me a contract. Shall we make your promotion official? I believe you've more than proven your ability to handle complex situations. I took the contract, thinking of Evelyn's face when she realized her perfect son's career was over, of Palmer's shock when she learned her brother wasn't the victim he'd claimed to be, of Reuben's dawning understanding that he'd not only failed to stop my rise, he'd orchestrated his own fall. Yes, I said, reaching for a pen. I believe I have. The morning sun streamed through my new corner office windows as I reviewed the final divorce papers. My phone buzzed. Evelyn, right on schedule. She'd called every day since Reuben's downfall, cycling through threats, pleading and attempts at manipulation. I answered, putting her on speaker. Hello, Evelyn. This has gone far enough. Her voice trembled with barely contained rage. Do you know what you've done to my son? His career is ruined. Actually, I do know. That's what happens when you use company resources for cyber attacks. I signed the last page with a flourish, but I'm sure you can explain it away at your next social gathering. He was trying to protect our family values. You've destroyed... No, Evelyn, he destroyed himself. I just provided the stage. A knock at my door interrupted her response. Talia entered, followed by Eleanor and Wesley. The security upgrade is ready to roll out, Wesley announced, then noticed my phone. Oh, family matters. Just wrapping up loose ends, I ended the call mid-protest. How's the new system? Impressive, he nodded. That trap you designed for Reuben inspired some interesting protocols. Eleanor settled into a chair. Speaking of which, his former employer called. They're pressing charges for misuse of corporate resources. Apparently, this wasn't his first attempt at digital interference. Of course it wasn't, I murmured, remembering all the times his competitors had mysteriously lost important files or presentations. Talia perched on my desk. Palmer called me yesterday, by the way. She's processing things. Let me guess, she's shocked her perfect brother could do such a thing. Actually, Talia grinned. She's shocked you caught him. Said something about re-evaluating her mum's definition of capable women. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email from Ruben's lawyer. I opened it as the others discussed the security rollout. Dear Mrs. McCoy, I read aloud, my client agrees to the divorce terms, including the non-disclosure agreement. He also wishes to convey his understanding that any further attempts at retaliation, digital or otherwise, will result in immediate legal consequences. Smart man, Eleanor remarked dryly. Finally. Oh, and there's a note from his new employer, I continued, unable to hide my smile. Entry-level IT support at a small local firm. The only place that would hire him with his recent history, Wesley whistled. Quite a fall from corporate sales director. Karma's digital footprint is fascinating, I mused, closing my laptop. Ready for the board meeting? We walked to the boardroom, my boardroom now. Through the glass walls I could see the global team dialing in, faces I'd be working with directly in my new role. Before we start, Eleanor paused at the door. Nash from Ruben's old company asked about consulting with us on security measures. Apparently they found some interesting patterns in their system logs. I'd be happy to help, I smiled. I have some experience with identifying hidden threats. The meeting began, my team presenting updates from around the world. No snide comments about my ambition, no subtle undermining of my authority, just respect, collaboration and recognition of what I'd earned. My phone lit up with a text from Palmer. Mom's a mess. Ruben's living in a studio apartment. I think I understand now why you did what you did. Can we talk sometime? I typed back, coffee next week. Bring questions, leave judgments. See, speaking of security, Wesley's voice drew my attention back to the meeting. Sylvia's new protocols have already caught 3 potential breaches. Turns out her experience with identifying malicious actors has broader applications. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. My husband's attempt to destroy my career had instead elevated me to exactly where I belonged, and taught the company valuable lessons about internal threats. Final item, Eleanor announced. The Global Expansion Project launches next month. Sylvia, you'll be leading the team personally. I stood, taking my place at the head of the table. The position Ruben and his family thought I didn't deserve. The role they'd tried to prevent me from claiming. Thank you, Eleanor, I said, pulling up my presentation. Let's talk about turning threats into opportunities. The sun caught my wedding ring as I gestured to the screen. I'd have to get that removed soon, another piece of the past to shed. But for now it served as a reminder, never underestimate a woman with ambition, technical skills, and a perfectly justified desire for revenge. Now, I smiled at my team, shall we begin? The future stretched before me, bright and unencumbered. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success built on the very foundation of someone else's attempt to destroy you. And I was just getting started.